Okay,
You're
so we're
on.
good?
Yep.
Great. This is a short presentation about Paddle the Kish and how we cleared 14 miles of the Kishwaukee River, which was upstream from where most people paddled. Boone and Winnebago County has had paddlers for a long time, but they didn't bother coming up here. There was actually a silly video that somebody made where they sped it up really fast because they were portaging over trees every 30 feet. And they published it, and I was embarrassed. Like, that's my river. So I wanted to share this with you. Here's a picture of our county. This line, it marked Highway 14. The fathers that built this road put it on the high ground, so they were pretty smart. So everything to the northeast goes to the Nippersink or Fox watershed, and everything to the southwest goes to the Kishwaukee watershed. The shaded in area is the actual headwaters. It comes from Lake Geneva. Apparently, we've heard that several months ago, but that's where the lowland, the wetland, it's trying to be a river all the way down 14 and then west to about Union, and that's where it's finally paddleable. So the Kishwaukee River continues to flow then into Boone County and then Winnebago County. It joins the Rock near the Rockford Airport. The Rock then joins the Mississippi at the Quad Cities and then flows into the Gulf of Mexico. So I live about by the K in Kishwaukee, and so a drop of rain that's falling in my backyard in western McHenry County is now in the Gulf of Mexico. So it's a precious uh, resource that we need to take very good care of. This is the watershed for the Kishwaukee River. You can see the part that's in our county. We have many creeks that are run into the uh, river throughout, and so it starts very small in Union. I used to think of it as a spring paddle, but it's pretty much after every rainfall. This year we had 3 good rainfalls. And so then the week after that, it's great for paddling. And then after that, not so much lately. But then there's also a south branch that's not in our county that goes through um, DeKalb and Sycamore, that area. But then they all come together at Cherry Valley. And the Kishwaukee is a Class A river. So it's something we really need to take care of. There's lots of endangered species of all kinds that are in it. So I decided to gather a group of people and figure out how to get rid of all those trees so that we could paddle in the Kish. So the Conservation District was very helpful. John Kramer answered all of my questions. Mary McCann, who's on this call, made some fabulous maps for me. She was on the county board at the time, so they've been helpful, and I use them to this day. The city of Marengo gave us 35 acres to try and make into a launch, which is really great. I contacted the Illinois Paddling Council. The environmental defenders actually are in charge of, or a special project of the defenders now. Open Lands was Durs Anderson. He just said, "Oh yeah, I know exactly the part of the Kish you're talking about. Let's grab our kayaks and paddle from Deer Pass to 23 and see what's there." No, haven't been able to do that. So we did that, Linda and Durs and I, and in August of 2018, and we've opened it up ever since. The Lions got involved because they own Seams Memorial Park in Union, and that's the start of our water trail. And then, of course, you guys, the Kishwaukee River Ecosystem Partnership, gave us money and really helped us out for everyone here. You're the river people, so you knew what we were doing. I did not know, but you sure taught me a lot. Then this is our brochure that we were told to do. The businesses, local businesses on the left, they're paid $25, and through 2 printings, they certainly got their money's worth to pay for the printing. And then on the right, Open Lands graphics guy helped us do this graphics. There was no water trail at the time, but we were very hopeful that people would be able to paddle all that, and it's worked out. This is what that city of Marengo land looked like when they gave it to us. Just scrub brush, and we made it into what we call Woodbine Launch. So we took some outdoor people who knew how to follow deer trails And there, on the left there, there's Durs Anderson on the right. We use that orange tape to mark our trail, and then we figured out how to get from a high area, which we've designated our parking lot, to the river. So the first few work days, weeks, were to pick up the fly dumping stuff. There were mattresses and plywood and all kinds of stuff. So the city of Moringa was great. We just put it in piles, and then they picked it up. And then we blocked off that road so that couldn't happen anymore. And on the right is just a volunteer. We got people from the community. We started a Facebook page, and paddlers and outdoor people just volunteered to help out. It was great. This is Josh. He had a winch on his 4x4, bless his heart. So we took chainsaws and chopped the trees off. We were going for a 15-foot wide trail, so you could use some vehicles down it. And then he would winch them out of there. And then we made these giant piles of trees. It was a lot of work. Like the whole first year, we just did woodbine. That's also Josh on the left with a chainsaw. So he was a multi-talented volunteer. And then we use local businesses like Intren here donated this large piece of equipment that they used to move our giant pile of trees, and they got rid of them somewhere, I don't know. And so this area here is the Woodbine Circle, that from there is where you enter the Woodbine Launch. On the left is the parking lot. It's a little more open now. So it's never going to flood. The subdivision that's right near it, when it was built, the builder put a bunch of waste there. So it's about 3 or 4 feet higher than the surrounding area. I'm sure that was probably something illegal that he did, but it works out well for a parking lot for us. And then from that point, you can drive on the picture on the right to the boat drop off. And then from that point, you have to walk your kayak or roll your kayak to the actual river because it's so low. There's about a half a mile of lowland on either side of the Kish the whole way in our county. So that's great because you never see any buildings. It's just like you're in northern Wisconsin or southern Illinois. It's just really beautiful. Then one day in the middle of the pandemic, I think this was summer of 2020, 2020, we rented a chipper, and we had about 20 people help us chip all the trees that we'd already cut down and make it to cover the path. So some people did the chipping, and then other people used wheelbarrows and a coaster, wagons and things to spread the chips. So it was a big day. You see some people have a net on, mosquito net, because it was August, and other people have masks because it was a pandemic. So it was quite the event. So that's Woodbine. Now, then we went to Seams. That was not part of the original plan, but I quickly realized in trying to figure this out that a parking lot is the most expensive part of any launch. And Seams Park had a parking lot. They also had a bad launch. You had to walk through low-level, mosquito-y kinds of things. And then it was on a promontory, which was it's hard to get in a kayak in a promontory. So they agreed that we could build another launch in a nicer location. So to the left is a volunteer, Susan. That's what it looked like to start with. And on the right is the river where we put the launch. So we brought in equipment and volunteers and tools, and we flattened the area that was going to be the launch. It was the next summer we did this. It was quite the event. Then we took, because the Union Lions not only let us build a launch, but they paid for it. So it cost $2,500 to pay for all this equipment. That's a grid system that you lay down over landscaping cloth, and then you fill it with gravel, and then that preserves the bank. And it's still looking really great now. It works out really well. On the right, then we poured concrete and installed a bench and a sign, and it's just been great. Just people use it all the time. Then the next year, some of my volunteers, these two guys here on the right, are engineers, and they designed this chute. And it works great. It's just the simplest thing. It's hinged and the bottom floats in the river. And so whatever the height of the river is, it does just fine. So the idea is to get in your kayak at the top and then just slide right into the river. It's really pretty fun. Then we moved to the third launch that we built. It's on Highway 23 at the City of Marengo Water Treatment Plant. So the picture on the left, the treatment plant is at the end of that picture on the left, and Highway 23 is on the right, and that's a mowed path that you bring your kayak down. You can park right there on the grass outside the fence so that you can kayak on weekends when the fence is locked. The middle one then is you turn a corner around the fence and you're heading toward the river. And so it's, it's primitive, but it works. And on the right, on the corner of that fence, is the USGS station that measures the water. So as long as we're looking at one, I want to point out that they changed the whole website the last couple of years. You don't no longer type in USGS, you type in water data, and then the name of the river, and then the name of the town. And then you get the data, and it's much more user-friendly than it used to be. What comes up automatically is the height of the river. But what we go by is the discharge, the current flow. Because people that are familiar with the Kishwaukee know that it's generally 2 to 3 feet deep. So to see the water data table say 7 or 8 or 9 feet deep, it gets very confusing. So we don't, instead of using that number, we use the discharge number. And so on that graph, when it shows the height, you just go down and look for graph discharge, and then it will give you that number. So in our experience, 70 to 600 is the safe and fun range for our part of the Kishwaukee. Less than 70, you're going to get your boat stuck on a lot of sandbars, and that's not fun. More than 600, and the current just whips you around a corner into the brush and the opposite bank. The volunteers try to cut out brush that might be a problem, but it always grows back in. So, and there's so many curves on the Kish that it really happens a lot. I personally have kayaked at 800 CFS, and there were 3 or 4 times I was really scared. So I mean, it's just really not worth it to be unsafe. So we really recommend 70 to 600, and that seems to be good for most people. So while we were building those launches, when the river was low, then we also were actually clearing the river. And so sometimes you actually have to take your chainsaw and use it to cut trees while you're in your kayak, but that doesn't happen very often. On the right, though, that poor guy is really pretty deep in the water, but sometimes there's no other place, no other way to do it. So we have people with chainsaws, and then we have people without chainsaws like me, and we're called chuckers. So I've trained the chainsaw guys to cut chunks like 18 to 20 inches long, because that's a size that the chuckers can throw onto the bank. Because the Kish is surrounded by lowland, wetland, you can't get a vehicle there to take the logs out of the area. You just can't, there's no way to do that. So we try to put the logs on the shore, on the bank, but then the next time it floods, which is several times a year, they're just going to go downstream anyway. My dream was to have such a big workday that we would have to alert Boone County that a whole bunch of logs are coming down the river, but that never happened, but maybe in the future. So sometimes, like the guy on the left, you have to actually stand on the tree that you're trying to cut, which is a little precarious. And other times on the right, the wood, that's ironwood, you can tell by the stain on the cut end there. And it's probably been in the river for years. So it was a son of a gun to cut. It took like 3 or 4 chains to get this baby done on those 2 guys, and they worked really hard. So sometimes you get softwood, willow, and other times you don't. The pile on the left there, that's a pile that we made. We take a lot of times you have a big tree, but then all the branches from other debris has come down the river, and it's just a matter of getting it out of the river, out of the way. So we make a pile on the side, and maybe that floats down the river later, maybe not. On the right, sometimes we all wear different gear. It just whatever works. I found that waders do not work very much because if you're walking along at like 2-3 feet of deep water and suddenly you're in 6 feet of water because there used to be a tree across there, and so the current dug out the bottom, and then you're swimming, and then your waders are full of water, and then you can't move your legs, and it's just better not to wear them and just get wet, and that's the way it goes. The guy on the left, that's Ray. He was our best volunteer. Sadly, he just passed away in June. But he's got a root there on the left that he's trying to move out of the water. So, you run across all kinds of things. On the right, there's another stack that we've made, and that's me sitting on something just totally exhausted after a day of working. There's Gary on the left. So a lot of times you have to make many chunks by the time you get a tree gone. And Ray on the right, that picture was taken in March when it was too cold to be in the river. So then that's when we work on our launches. And then sometimes we bring in big equipment. And this was another chipping day. On the right, you see Ray standing by the landscaping cloth that we put under the chips. And that makes it last a lot longer. On the left is Gary's kayak. That's his work kayak that he bought especially to work. The amount of equipment he brings is stunning. He has 2 chainsaws, a sledgehammer, and wedges in case his chainsaw gets stuck in the tree that he's trying to cut. Just all gas that volunteers just bring they donate their own gas for the chainsaw as well as to drive to the Kish, to the site. On the right, we generally have 2 or 3 chainsaw guys working on the same jam. We try and stay together for safety, and then they just work on different parts of it to get it gone. So they're just so dedicated. It was just humbling looking through these thousands of pictures to choose which ones to show you how many people donated so much time and effort to get this done. Here on the left is a before picture. You see that tree that's across the river. You'd have to portage. There's no way to get over. But on the right, it's all gone. There's fresh cuts on both sides. They can just paddle through, no problem. That's our goal, to make it a happy peddler at all levels. So on the left, Ray is changing out his chain because generally they go through 1 or 2 chains per session. We're out there, generally meet at 8 o'clock and 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It's a long day. The guy on the right is getting rid of that branch because that's safe at this water level, but the range of the Kish is about 5 feet. So at high water, it's about 5 feet tall, more water than it is at low level. So at high water, that branch would be a problem for paddlers. So we try and take care and think about the area at all water levels. The good part, the really great part, is all the wildlife that we've seen. There's on the left is a eagle, and we generally every time or 2 we see eagles, so that they nest around there and hang out on the river and look for food. And on the right, that bump in front of that guy is actually a beaver. He's kind of swimming along with the beaver and having a good time. There's tons of freshwater mussels. We just see them all over the place. Sometimes you can see them living, and they're walking along the bottom of the river. It's really cool to watch. And there's several pairs of blue heron that live on the river, so they generally play tag with us as we float down the river from work site to work site. They're just beautiful in flight. And on the right is Queen of the Prairie native plants. There's a lot of native plants. There's cardinal flower in different areas. So as they bloom, it just makes for a beautiful trip. You're out there with nature, and it's really great. So to publicize this, we had on the upper left is our Facebook page. It had 1,700 viewers. And so when I wanted a work day, I just had to say, Wednesday, 8 o'clock at Deer Pass, and 15 people would show up. And so that worked out really well. On the right upper is our website, and that's good for more regular information. We don't change that as often. We don't announce work days or anything there. And that's the map for this year, that green and blue thing in the bottom there that shows all the points and how to get in and out of the Kish, mostly around bridges for this year. And on that bar, that gray bar on the bottom, is the link to the water data. And then on the bottom, we actually have our own YouTube channel for videos that people have made. And that yellow boat down there in the bottom is me. We made a video especially for Woodbine because it's kind of weird. You're on a city street, and then it looks like you're expected to drive between two big signs, and you are. And then there's that parking lot, and then you can drive down a path, and then you can you have to stop at a boat drop off your boat, circle back, and park back in the parking lot. So that was a little confusing, we thought, for first timers. So we made this video to kind of show how to do that. And then we needed money. So mostly for signs. We just needed signs. There's one sign, Kishwaukee River 300 feet, that's been stolen like 4 times. I'm sure there's 4 high school boys that have it in their bedrooms now. So there's just money that we need. So in the upper right, the Kishwaukee River Ecosystem Partnership graciously gave us some money to help pay for the launch and various things. We designed a logo that we put on clothing and sold that. We still have some left over if anybody wants any. You can barely see the Giving Tuesday. We used that one year. And then we had a realtor. The Heartland Realtors gave us money. And one year we used a Facebook fundraiser, and that raised $500 in 3 hours. And then Susan's there at the bottom with a sign. And then to have outreach for different communities for their support, every year I make a card and send it to all the volunteers to just kind of keep them in the loop with pictures of what happened that year and what went on. And it's a good way to communicate. In the upper right, that's I think it's a township meeting. We met with various groups, and those are Mary's maps there. And the upper right is Durs and some other Howard Andrews, one of the brothers that used to clear the Kish back in the 60s and 70s. So we get together and chat when it's not kayaking season, because the volunteers have gotten to be friends. And the lower right is a Paddle the Kish display that we had in Marengo at the Settlers Days Saturday night. When we first started, we wanted people to know what we were doing, and so setting that up really was helpful for community outreach. In the center is Linda and I. We went to Shanahan. There was a really great conference, a one-time thing about how volunteers clear rivers. And it was exactly really good timing for us. So we went and learned a lot, took a lot of notes, met a lot of people, and it was really great. And then on the lower left is Linda at a Woodstock Rotary meeting. We brought a kayak to try and get them involved and informed, and we had a good time. It was cute. We've won several awards. We were the Volunteer of the Year for the Environmental Defenders. We just got that award this spring. And then in 2020, we were Volunteer Group of the Year from Prairie Rivers Network. So that was very honorable. We've also been in the Northwest Herald 3 times, in 24 and 22 and 21. And this year on the left there, we were part of the show guide for Kishwaukee, Rutabaga in Madison. So that's a little story of this couple being on the Kish, which was a total surprise. We had no idea that was going to be there till we got the show guide. And this is this year's water trail. So it changes every year as we improve and change. And so make this map, and then 2 pages come with it that tells you what corner to get in and out at, like Deer Pass Bridge or Millstream Bridge. Ernest Varga has also been a big help with transportation and kind of helping us with all the different bridge constructions. So I thank you very much. It's been a journey. I've met fabulous people. Thank you.